The stars looked different now. Commander Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the endless black space through the main window. 3 years had passed since Earth burned. 3 years since the Valorian Empire turned his home world into ash and dust. But the humans who escaped were still fighting. His ship, the Iron Phoenix, floated near a small planet called Kepler 442b. This world was far from the main space routes, far from the Empire's attention. Here, the last human. Fleet waited and planned their next move. "Commander," So-young called from her station. She was his best officer for watching enemy signals. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panels. "I'm getting something strange from the galactic core." Hyunwoo walked over to her station. The screen showed wave patterns and energy readings. "What kind of strange?" "Massive energy spikes. Someone is building something big out there." So-young's face looked worried. "The power levels are off the charts." Before Hyunwoo could answer, another officer ran onto the bridge. "Sir, we have visitors." 3 Valorian ships appeared on the main screen. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. The ships looked like they were made of crystal and metal. They moved through space like deadly dancers. On the largest ship, Supreme Chancellor Taemin sat in his command chair. He looked human, but his skin had a strange blue glow. His eyes were completely black. He had been alive for thousands of years, though few knew this secret. "Admiral Jin-ho," Taemin said to the figure standing beside him. "What do you know about these humans?" Jin-ho was tall and thin. Like all Valorians, he looked almost human, but not quite right. "They are different from other species we have conquered. They don't surrender when they should. They don't run when they should. They adapt." "Adapt?" Taemin's voice was cold. "Yes. In battle, they change their tactics faster than any species I've seen. They use their weakness as strength. They turn our advantages against us." Taemin stood up from his chair. He walked to the large window of his ship. Below, he could see the human fleet. Small ships, old ships, ships that should be no match for Valorian technology. "How many humans are left?" he asked. "Maybe 50 million across all the colony worlds. Their main fleet has perhaps 200 ships." Taemin smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "And yet you sound worried, Admiral." Jin-ho was quiet for a moment. "In our last battle with them, they destroyed 5 of our cruisers. They lost 12 ships doing it. But the way they fought, it was like they didn't care if they died. They cared only about taking us with them." On the human ship, Hyunwoo watched the Valorian vessels. They were not attacking. Not yet. They were studying, watching. This made him more nervous than an attack would. "So-young, get me Captain Minho on the Soul's Pride." The screen flickered, and a young man's face appeared. Captain Minho looked tired. All the human commanders looked tired these days. "Commander, I see our friends have come to visit." "They're just watching us," Hyunwoo said. "I don't like it. When the Empire watches, bad things happen." "What are your orders, sir?" Hyunwoo thought for a moment. The smart thing would be to run, to jump to another system and hope the Valorians didn't follow. But running hadn't saved Earth. Running hadn't saved the other human colonies. "Prepare the fleet for battle," he said. "If they want to study us, let's give them something interesting to look at." On the Valorian flagship, sensors detected the human ships powering up their weapons. Jin-ho checked his readings twice. "Chancellor, they're preparing to fight." 3 ships against our entire battle group?" "Yes, sir," Taemin laughed. It was a sound like breaking glass. "See what I mean about these humans? Any other species would be begging for mercy by now. Should we destroy them?" "No." Taemin turned away from the window. "I want prisoners. Live ones. I want to understand what makes them so stubborn." The space between the fleets was quiet. Both sides waited. The humans knew they couldn't win this fight. The Valorians knew they could end it in minutes. But something else was happening here. Something neither side fully understood yet. Dr. Yun-ji worked in her laboratory on one of the human ships. She was a scientist who studied alien life forms. But these days, there wasn't much time for science. Everyone had to be a fighter now. She looked at her research on Valorian technology. The pieces of their ships that the humans had recovered showed something strange. The Empire's technology wasn't just advanced. It was made from parts of other alien species, biological parts, as if they were collecting pieces from every race they conquered. "Doctor," her assistant called. "The commander wants all non-combat personnel to prepare for evacuation." Yunji saved her work and packed her important research files. But she kept thinking about what she had discovered. If the Valorians were collecting biological samples from conquered species, what did they want with humans? Back on the bridge, Hyunwoo watched the enemy ships move into attack position. "All ships, this is Commander Hyunwoo. Today we fight not just for ourselves, but for everyone the Empire has destroyed. Show them that humans don't go quietly into the dark." The battle was about to begin. Neither side knew that this small fight would change everything. The Valorians thought they were capturing a few stubborn humans. The humans thought they were making their last stand. But in truth, they were starting something much bigger, something that would shake the entire galaxy. The war that was coming would not be won by the strongest weapons or the biggest ships. It would be won by something the Valorian Empire had never encountered before. It would be won by the human ability to become something new when everything seemed lost, to evolve when evolution should be impossible, to find hope in hopelessness. The first shots were fired. Energy beams crossed the dark space between the fleets. The real war was beginning, though. Neither side understood what they had started. In his command chair, Taemin smiled his cold smile. He thought he was about to add another species to his collection. He thought he understood what humans were. He was wrong about both things. The battle raged in the darkness between stars, and somewhere in that darkness, humanity began to change into something the galaxy had never seen before. Something that would make the Empire's ultimate weapon seem like a toy. The quiet before the storm was ending. The real storm was about to begin. The battle at Proxima Centauri started like all the others. The Valorians had more ships, better weapons, and stronger shields. Captain Minho watched 10 enemy cruisers move toward his single destroyer. The Soul's Pride was old and patched with spare parts. "It should have been no contest. Captain," his weapons officer called out, "they're demanding our surrender." Minho looked at his crew. 37 men and women who had already lost everything. Their families were dead. Their homeworlds were gone. All they had left was this ship and each other. "Tell them we're busy," Minho said. The Valorian ships opened fire. Plasma beams lit up the darkness. The Soul's Pride shook as energy hit its shields. Warning lights flashed red across the bridge. "Shields down to 60%, reported the defense officer. Minho knew the math. His ship could survive maybe 3 more hits like that. The Valorians could keep firing for hours, but humans had learned something during 3 years of running and hiding. They had learned that winning and surviving were not the same thing. "Hyejin," Minho called to his chief engineer. "How's our reactor looking?" "Running hot but stable, Captain." Hyejin's voice came through the comm system from deep in the ship. "Why do you ask?" "Because I have a crazy idea." On the Valorian flagship, Admiral Jin Ho watched the human ship try to dodge their weapons fire. The destroyer was fast for such an old ship. Its pilot was good, but it was still just 1 ship against 10. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "the human vessel is moving toward us at full speed." Jin Ho frowned. "Toward us? Are they trying to ram?" "It appears so, sir." This was strange. Ramming attacks were something desperate pirates might try. not military officers. Prepare to destroy them before they get close. But the human ship did something unexpected. Instead of flying straight at the largest Valorian cruiser, it suddenly turned and headed for the smallest escort ship. The Valorians had to adjust their aim. In those few seconds, the Soul's pride got closer. Minho smiled as he watched the enemy ships try to turn their big guns toward his small, fast destroyer. "Now, Hyejin, give me everything you've got!" Deep in the engine room, Hyejin looked at her reactor controls. She had been an engineer for 15 years. She knew exactly what would happen if she did what the captain wanted. She also knew it was the only way to make their deaths count for something. "Reactor overload in 30 seconds," she announced to the ship. "All hands brace for impact." The Soul's pride slammed into the Valorian escort ship at nearly light speed. The crash created a ball of fire that could be seen from 3 star systems away. Both ships were destroyed instantly, but Hyejin had done something clever with the reactor overload. The explosion created a chain reaction that spread to 2 other enemy ships. In 10 seconds, the humans had destroyed 3 Valorian vessels. Admiral Jin Ho stared at the expanding cloud of debris where 4 ships had been. His tactical officer was running damage reports. The other Valorian ships had taken serious damage from the explosion. "Sir," the officer said quietly, "we've never seen anything like that before." "No," Jin Ho agreed. "We haven't." The news of the battle traveled fast. On the human fleet base, Commander Hyun Woo read the report 3 times. Minho and his entire crew were dead, but they had done something impossible. They had made the Empire pay a real price. "So Young," he called to his communications officer, "send this battle report to every human ship and colony. Let them know that we can hurt these bastards." "Yes, sir." But the report also reached the Valorian capital. Supreme Chancellor Taemin read it in his private chambers. He had conquered over 3,000 species in his long life. None of them had ever willingly destroyed themselves just to take a few enemies with them. "Bring me the prisoners from the other human colonies," he ordered his guards. "I want to study these creatures." Dr. Yun-ji was working in her lab when the Valorian soldiers came for her. She had been captured 3 weeks ago when they raided the research station on Kepler 186F. She thought they would kill her like they had killed most of the others. Instead, they brought her to a clean, white room full of strange machines. Chancellor Taemin was waiting for her. "Dr. Yun-ji," he said, reading from a data pad. "You study alien biology. How interesting." Yun-ji said nothing. She had heard about the Chancellor. He looked young, maybe 30 years old, but intelligence. Reports said he had been leading the Empire for centuries. "I want to understand your species," Taemin continued. "What makes humans so willing to die for nothing?" "We don't die for nothing," Yun-ji said. "We die for each other." Taemin smiled his cold smile. "How primitive, but also useful." He gestured to the machines around the room. "These devices will scan your brain patterns, your genetic code, your biological responses to stress. Don't worry. It won't kill you. I need you alive to study." As the machines hummed to life, Yun-ji realized something terrible. The Chancellor wasn't just trying to understand humans. He was trying to copy them. The equipment around her wasn't for research. It was for harvesting. "You're collecting us," she whispered. "Very good, Doctor. Yes, we collect the best qualities from every species we encounter. The Thoraxians gave us their strength. The Nebula Dancers gave us their speed. The Crystal Singers gave us their technology. And what do you want from humans?" Taemin's black eyes seemed to glow. "Your unpredictability, your adaptation, your willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. Imagine an army with Valorian technology and human desperation. Nothing in the galaxy could stop us." The scanning began. Yunji felt the machines probing her mind, her body, her very essence. But even as they worked, she was studying them back. As a scientist, she couldn't help herself. What she discovered made her blood turn cold. The Valorian Empire wasn't just conquering species, they were absorbing them. Taking the best parts and adding them to their own synthetic biology, Taemin himself was proof of this. She could see now that he wasn't really Valorian. He was a collection of parts from dozens of species, held together by advanced technology. He had been doing this for thousands of years. How many? She asked. How many what, Doctor? How many species have you absorbed? Taemin seemed pleased that she understood. 3,417, soon to be 3,418. But as the machines scanned her, Yunji noticed something else. The readings were strange. Her brain patterns were changing even as they watched. Her body was adapting to the stress of the scanning process. The Valorian technicians looked confused. Chancellor, her readings are fluctuating wildly. Interesting, Taemin said. It seems humans adapt even to our collection process. Yunji realized what was happening. Humans weren't just unpredictable in battle. They were unpredictable in everything. Even when being studied, they evolved and changed. This gave her hope. If humans were changing faster than the Valorians could study them, maybe they couldn't be copied after all. Maybe humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their willingness to die. Maybe it was their refusal to stay the same. The scanning continued, but Unji was no longer afraid. She was planning. If she could survive this, she could warn the others. She could tell them what the Empire really wanted, and maybe, just maybe, she could help them become something the Empire couldn't steal. 3 months after the battle at Proxima Centauri, the galaxy looked different. The Valorian Empire controlled most of the star systems, but they were learning that control and peace were not the same thing. Ji-hoon crouched in the shadows of a Valorian supply depot on the planet Kepler 438b. He had been a spy for the human military before Earth died. Now he led a group of fighters who struck at the Empire wherever they could. Nari, he whispered into his comm device. Are you in position? 2 kilometers away, Nari sat in front of a portable computer. She was the best hacker the human resistance had. Her fingers moved across the keyboard like a pianist playing a deadly song. Almost through their security, she replied. These Valorians are smart, but they think like machines. Humans think like chaos. Nari had discovered something important about Valorian computer systems. They were perfect. Too perfect. They couldn't handle random, unpredictable attacks. Human. Hackers could break into systems that had kept out other alien species for centuries. I'm in, Nari announced. Downloading their shipping records now. What she found in those records made her sick. The Valorians weren't just moving supplies and weapons between their bases. They were moving people, thousands of them from dozens of different species. Ji-hoon, you need to see this. An hour later, the resistance team met in an abandoned mine shaft. Nari showed them what she had found on a small screen. They're not just conquering planets, she explained. They're harvesting the people who live on them. The images showed transport ships full of prisoners from many different worlds. Humans, yes, but also bird-like creatures from the Centauri system and the tall, thin people from the Vega colonies. What are they doing with them? Asked one of the other fighters. I don't know yet, Nari said, but I found references to something called Project Synthesis. Ji-hoon studied the data. He had seen enough military intelligence to recognize a pattern. This isn't random. They're selecting specific individuals, scientists, soldiers, engineers, doctors. The best and brightest from each species, Nari agreed. Meanwhile, Dr. Yunji was learning the truth the hard way. She had been in Valorian custody for weeks now. Every day they ran more tests. Every day she learned more about their real plans. The laboratory where they kept her was full of other prisoners. She had met Crix Tal, a scientist from the Crystal Singer civilization. There was also Veltar, a warrior from the Thoraxian Empire. All of them were the best their species had to offer. "They are not trying to understand us," Krixtal explained in his musical voice. "They are trying to become us." "What do you mean?" Yunji asked. Veltar answered. His people were warriors, so he understood tactics better than most. "The Valorians have no original biology. They are synthetic beings. They make themselves stronger by taking pieces from other species. They want our knowledge, our skills, our physical abilities," Krixtal added. "But they cannot simply copy these things. They must harvest them from living beings." Yunji felt cold, despite the warm air in the laboratory. "You mean they're going to—" "Yes," Veltar said grimly. "They will extract what they want from our brains and bodies. We will die, but parts of us will live on in their synthetic forms." That night, Yunji managed to access a computer terminal while the guards were changing shifts. She sent a coded message through channels the Resistance had taught her to use. The message was simple. "They harvest minds, not just bodies. Synthesis means absorption. Warn the others. EJ." The message took 2 weeks to reach Ji-hoon's team. When it did, everything changed. "If they're harvesting minds," Ji-hoon said, "then every battle, every captured human makes them stronger." "It's worse than that," Nari replied. She had been studying the Valorian data files day and night. "According to these records, they've been doing this for thousands of years. Every species they've conquered is now part of them. So when we fight Valorians," one of the fighters began. "We're fighting parts of every species they've ever defeated," Ji-hoon finished. "Their technology, their tactics, their knowledge, all of it stolen from their victims." The Resistance team sat in silence. They had thought they were fighting an alien empire. Now they realized they were fighting the ghosts of 3,000 dead civilizations. "There's more," Nari said quietly. "I found files about humans specifically. They call us the adaptive ones. They're fascinated by how quickly we change during combat." She brought up another file on her screen. "They've been studying the battle at Proxima Centauri over and over. They want to understand how Captain Minho and his crew were able to destroy 3 of their ships. And they think it's because humans evolve in real time during stress. Other species fight with the abilities they're born with. Humans become something new when they have to." Ji-hoon felt a chill run down his spine. "If they harvest that ability, they'll have an army that adapts to any threat instantly," Nari confirmed. "Nothing in the galaxy will be able to stop them." The implications were terrifying. The Valorian Empire was already the most powerful force in known space. If they gained human adaptability, they would be unstoppable. "We have to warn Commander Hyunwoo," Ji-hoon decided, "and we have to rescue Dr. Yunji and the other prisoners." "That's suicide," one of the fighters protested. "Their main research facility is in the heart of Empire space. We'd need a fleet to get there." "Then we'll get a fleet," Ji-hoon said. "Because if we don't, humanity won't just be conquered. We'll be absorbed. We'll become part of the weapon they use to destroy everyone else." Nari was already working on her computer. "I'm sending coded messages to every resistance cell in the galaxy, not just humans, every species that's still fighting." "What are you telling them?" "The truth. That the Valorian Empire isn't made of Valorians. It's made of all of us. Every species they've conquered is trapped inside their synthetic bodies. And if we don't stop them, we'll be next." As the messages spread across the galaxy, something began to change. Species that had been fighting the Empire separately began to realize they had a common enemy. More than that, they had a common tragedy. Their ancestors, their heroes, their greatest minds, they weren't dead. They were prisoners, trapped inside Valorian synthetic bodies, forced to fight against their own descendants. The war was no longer about territory or resources. It had become a war to free the souls of every civilization the Empire had ever conquered. And humanity, with their strange ability to adapt and change, might be the key to winning it, if they could survive long enough to figure out how. Commander Hyunwoo read Ji-hoon's message 3 times before he believed it. The Resistance had discovered the truth about the Valorian Empire. They weren't fighting aliens. They were fighting the combined knowledge and abilities of every species. The Empire had ever conquered. So Young, he called to his communications officer, send a priority message to all fleet commanders. Operation Ghost Protocol is now active. So Young looked up from her station. Sir, what is Operation Ghost Protocol? Hyun-woo walked to the main window of his ship. Outside, the stars looked the same as always, but now he knew the truth. Somewhere out there, the minds of thousands of dead species were trapped inside Valorian. Synthetic bodies. We're going to give the Empire exactly what they want, he said. We're going to show them human adaptation in action, but not the way they expect. Operation Ghost Protocol was designed around a simple idea. If the Valorians wanted to study human evolution under pressure, the humans would give them more pressure than they could handle. The plan was dangerous. Instead of trying to win battles, human forces would put themselves in impossible situations. They would push their crews to the absolute limit and see what happened. It could kill us all. So Young pointed out. We're already dying, Hyun-woo replied. At least this way we might learn something useful before we go. The first test came at Barnard's Star. Lieutenant Woo Jin commanded a small patrol ship called the Defiant Hope. His mission was simple. Attack a Valorian supply convoy that was protected by 6 escort cruisers. It was suicide. Everyone knew it. But Woo Jin had volunteered anyway. Sergeant Bo-ra, he said to his weapons officer. Are you ready for this? Bo-ra checked her weapon systems one last time. She had been fighting the Valorians for 2 years. Her family had died on Earth. Like most humans still alive, she had nothing left to lose. Ready, sir. Let's show them what humans can do. The Defiant Hope dropped out of hyperspace directly in the middle of the Valorian convoy. 6 enemy cruisers immediately opened fire. The small human ship should have been destroyed in seconds. But something strange happened. Woo Jin felt his mind become incredibly clear. Time seemed to slow down. He could see the pattern in the enemy weapons fire. More than that, he could predict where they would aim next. Hard to port, he shouted. The ship turned just as plasma beams crossed the space where they had been. Woo Jin hadn't seen the shots coming on his sensors. He had simply known they would be there. Bo-ra, fire on the second cruiser, targeting their weapon ports. Sir, I can't get a lock on something that small at this distance. Trust me, fire now! Bo-ra pulled the trigger. Somehow her aim was perfect. The shot hit exactly where Woo Jin had said it would. The Valorian cruiser's main weapons went offline. How did you know? Bo-ra asked. Woo Jin didn't have an answer. But he could feel something changing in his mind. The stress of the impossible battle was doing something to him, making him faster, smarter, more aware. Target the 4th cruiser's engines, he ordered. This time, Bo-ra didn't question him. She fired where he pointed. Again, the shot was perfect. On the Valorian flagship, Admiral Jin-ho watched the battle with growing amazement. The human ship was somehow dodging weapons fire that should be impossible to avoid. Their return shots were hitting targets that should be impossible to reach. How are they doing this? His tactical officer asked. I don't know, Jin-ho admitted, but record everything. The Chancellor will want to see this. The battle lasted 20 minutes. When it ended, the Defiant Hope had destroyed 2 Valorian cruisers and damaged 3 others. The human ship was barely holding together. But it was still flying. Bo-ra, Woo Jin said quietly. Do you feel different? Bo-ra looked at her hands. They weren't shaking, even though she had just survived the most intense battle of her life. Her thoughts were clearer than they had ever been. Her reflexes felt faster. Yes, sir. I feel enhanced. The same thing was happening to human crews across the galaxy. Every time they were pushed to their limits, something in their biology responded. They became faster, smarter, more coordinated. But there was a price. Medical scans showed that the enhanced humans were aging rapidly. Their cells were burning out from the stress of constant adaptation. "We're evolving," Dr. Young-Soo told Commander Hyun-woo. Young-Soo was the fleet's chief scientist. He had been studying the enhanced crews for weeks. Evolving into what? "I don't know yet, but it's happening fast, too fast. The human body wasn't designed for this kind of rapid change." Hyun-woo looked at the medical reports. Enhanced humans were becoming incredible fighters and tacticians, but they were also dying young. Most of them had maybe 6 months to live. "So we're trading our future for the ability to fight now?" "It appears so," Young-Soo confirmed. "But Commander, there's something else. The enhanced humans aren't just better fighters. They're developing new abilities we've never seen before." "What kind of abilities?" "Limited telepathy between crew members. Instant coordination of complex tactics. Some of them seem to be able to predict enemy movements minutes before they happen. This was exactly what the Valorians wanted to harvest. Human adaptability was creating abilities that no other species possessed. On the Valorian research station, Dr. Yoonji was watching the same data. The station received reports from every battle. She could see what was happening to her people. "They're becoming exactly what the Empire wants," she whispered to herself. But she also noticed something the Valorians had missed. The enhanced humans weren't just developing useful abilities. They were also developing resistance to Valorian technology. Some of the enhanced prisoners had become immune to the synthetic scanning equipment. Others seemed to be able to disrupt Valorian computer systems just by being near them. Yoonji realized that human evolution wasn't just random. It was adaptive in a very specific way. Humans didn't just become stronger or faster. They became whatever they needed to be to survive their current threat. And right now, their biggest threat was the Valorian Empire. She managed to send another coded message to the resistance. "Enhancement is defense mechanism, humans adapting specifically to counter Valorian advantages. This is our weapon, EJ." When Ji-hoon received the message, he understood immediately. The Valorians thought they were studying human evolution so they could copy it. But human evolution was adapting specifically to fight Valorians. "Nari," he said to his hacker friend, "what if we've been thinking about this wrong?" "What do you mean?" "What if human enhancement isn't something that happens to us? What if it's something we can control?" Nari looked up from her computer. "You think we can trigger evolution on purpose?" "Dr. Yoonji says we're adapting to counter Valorian threats. If that's true, then the more pressure they put on us, the more we'll adapt to fight them. It was a dangerous idea, deliberately putting humans in life-threatening situations to force them to evolve. But it might be their only chance. Send a message to Commander Hyun-woo," Ji-hoon decided. "Tell him we want to volunteer for the most dangerous missions he has." "That's crazy. Maybe. But if we're going to burn out and die anyway, let's make sure we evolve into something the Empire can't handle first." The war was entering a new phase. Humans were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting to become something new. Something that could challenge an empire built from the stolen abilities of 3,000 conquered species. The question was whether they could evolve fast enough to matter and whether they could survive their own transformation. Supreme Chancellor Taemin stood in his private laboratory watching the latest battle reports. Human resistance forces were becoming more dangerous with each engagement. But instead of being worried, he was excited. "Perfect," he whispered to himself. "They're evolving exactly as I hoped they would." He turned to Admiral Jin Ho, who was standing nearby. "Begin Phase 2 of Project Synthesis." "Sir?" "Controlled evolution protocols. I want human populations subjected to extreme survival scenarios. We'll force them to evolve, then harvest them at peak enhancement." Jin Ho looked uncomfortable. "Chancellor, with respect, the humans are already evolving on their own. Why risk—" Because natural evolution is too slow and too random, Taemin interrupted. I want specific adaptations. I want to control what they become. On the colony world of Harmony 7, life had been peaceful until the Valorian ships arrived. Da-un was the colony's chief administrator. She had never been in the military. She had never fired a weapon in anger. She was just a civilian trying to keep 12,000 people alive. The Valorians didn't attack the colony directly. Instead, they sealed the habitat domes and released something into the environment. Creatures from deep space. Predators that had never seen sunlight. Da-un! Her assistant called over the emergency communications. We have reports of attacks in Sectors 7 through 12. These things, they're hunting us. Dae-yun looked at the security monitors. The creatures were like nothing she had ever seen. They moved through shadows like liquid darkness. They had too many teeth and too many claws. How many people have we lost? 43 confirmed dead, maybe twice that many missing. The colony had some basic security weapons, but they were designed to deal with human criminals, not alien predators. Da-yun knew they needed a real plan. Gather everyone in the central plaza, she ordered. We'll make our stand there. But as the hours passed, something strange began to happen to Da-un. The stress of leading desperate people against impossible odds was changing her. Her mind became sharper. She could see patterns in the creature attacks that others missed. They're not hunting randomly, she announced to the crowd. They're testing us, learning our weaknesses. How can you tell? Asked Dr. Park, the colony's medical officer. Da-yun pointed to the security screens. Look at the timing of their attacks. They hit the armory first to see how we defended it, then the food storage to see how we protected our supplies. Now they're circling the power station. So what do? Da-un closed her eyes and let her enhanced mind work through the problem. When she opened them again, she had a plan that surprised even her. We're going to hunt them instead. The plan was crazy. Divide the colonists into small groups. Use the habitat dome's ventilation system to move through the colony without being seen. Turn the predator's own tactics against them. It should have failed. None of the colonists were soldiers. But somehow, it worked. Da-yun found herself moving through the dark corridors with impossible grace. She could sense where the creatures were before she saw them. Her improvised weapons found their targets with deadly accuracy. The other colonists were changing too. Dr. Park discovered he could predict where the creatures would attack next. The maintenance chief learned to move through the colony's systems like he had built them himself. After 72 hours, the creatures were all dead. The colonists had not just survived. They had won. Commander Hyun-woo arrived with a rescue fleet to find something he didn't expect. The colonists were alive, healthy, and had somehow defeated predators that should have killed them all. Da-un, he said when he met with her. How did you do it? I don't know, she admitted. When the attack started, I was just a scared administrator. But as the pressure increased, I became something else. Medical scans of the colonists showed the same pattern that was appearing across human space. Enhanced reflexes, improved pattern recognition, increased coordination, but also cellular damage from the rapid changes. How long do we have? Daeun asked Dr. Young-soo, who had come with the rescue fleet. Based on what we've seen from other enhanced humans, maybe 6 months, maybe less. Daeun nodded calmly. Then we need to make those 6 months count. On the Valorian research station, Dr. Yoon-ji was watching the reports from Harmony 7. She had access to Valorian monitoring equipment that tracked the entire battle. Fascinating, Chancellor Taemin said, appearing behind her. Your people adapted to alien predators in less than 3 days. No other species has ever done that. What do you want from me? Yoon-ji asked. Your expertise. You understand human biology better than anyone. I want you to help me perfect the harvesting process. I'll never help you. Taemin smiled his cold smile. Dr. Yoon-ji, look around you. This station contains the harvested minds of over 50,000 individuals from 3,000 species. Every one of them thought they would never help me. Yunji looked at the equipment around her. For the first time, she really understood what it was. Not just scanning devices, storage units. Each one contained the consciousness of someone who had once been like her. But here's what's interesting about humans, Taemin continued. Your enhancement process is damaging the very thing I want to harvest. Enhanced humans seem to develop resistance to our collection technology. This was news to Yunji. Resistance? Yes. The more evolved a human becomes, the harder it is to extract their consciousness patterns. It's as if your species is specifically adapting to counter our abilities. Yunji felt a spark of hope. If enhanced humans were becoming immune to Valorian harvesting, then evolution wasn't just making them better fighters. It was making them impossible to collect. I need you to find a way around this resistance, Taemin said. Help me harvest enhanced humans and I'll spare your remaining colonies. And if I refuse? Then I'll activate every synthesis engine in the galaxy simultaneously. Every human in existence will be subjected to forced evolution scenarios. They'll either evolve and die from cellular damage, or they'll fail to evolve and be killed by the scenarios. Yunji realized the true scope of what the Empire had planned. They had built massive machines throughout the galaxy that could create extreme survival situations on entire worlds. They could force evolution on any species they chose. You've done this before, she said. To other species. Of course. How do you think we discovered which traits were worth harvesting? We tested every species to their breaking point. Most failed the test, and the ones who passed became part of us. But humans are different. You're passing the test too well. You're becoming something we can't control. That night, Yunji managed to send another message to the resistance. Evolution is defense. Enhanced humans resist harvesting. Force them to activate all engines at once. Survival will make us immune. EJ. When the message reached Ji-hoon and Nari, they understood what Yunji was suggesting. It was the most dangerous plan anyone had ever proposed. She wants us to trigger a galaxy-wide evolution event on purpose, Nari said. Either we all evolve fast enough to become immune to their harvesting, or we all die trying, Ji-hoon agreed. That's insane. Maybe. But look at our alternatives. If we do nothing, they harvest us slowly, one colony at a time. If we run, they eventually catch us anyway. At least this way, we control the timing. Ji-hoon began composing a message to Commander Hyun-woo and every other human leader in the galaxy. The message was simple. Time to roll the dice for our entire species. War was about to enter its final phase. Humanity would either evolve into something that could resist the Valorian Empire, or they would join the thousands of other species trapped in synthetic bodies. But for the first time since Earth died, humans would have some control over their fate, even if that control meant risking everything on a single desperate gamble. The synthesis engine was the size of a small moon. It floated in the darkness near the galactic core, surrounded by thousands of Valorian ships. Supreme Chancellor Taemin stood on its command bridge, watching displays that showed human colonies. Across the galaxy, Admiral Jin-ho, he called. Are all engines ready for simultaneous activation? Yes, Chancellor. We have synthesis engines positioned near every human population center. When activated, they will create survival scenarios on over 400 worlds simultaneously. Taemin smiled. After studying human evolution for months, he had designed the perfect test. Each human colony would face extinction-level threats tailored to force specific evolutionary responses. Those who survived would be harvested at peak enhancement. Begin activation sequence, he ordered. But something was wrong. His tactical displays showed unusual activity around human colonies. Ships were moving. People were gathering. It looked almost like they were preparing for what was coming. Sir, Jin-ho reported. Human resistance forces are broadcasting on all frequencies. They appear to be coordinating some kind of response. On the human colony world of New Seoul, Commander Hyun-woo stood before a crowd of 50,000 people. His voice carried across the planet through emergency broadcast systems. "Citizens of humanity," he began, "today we face the ultimate test of our species. The Valorian Empire plans to force us to evolve or die, but we're not going to wait for them to choose the terms." Behind him, So Young monitored communications from across human space. Similar speeches were being given on every human world. The plan that Dr. Yoonji had suggested was about to be put into action. "We know that human evolution under stress creates resistance to Valorian harvesting technology," Hyun-woo continued. "So we're going to evolve faster and harder than they expect. We're going to become something they can't control." In the crowd, enhanced humans like Da-eun and Lieutenant Woo-jin stood ready to help others through the coming transformation. They had learned something important during their own evolution. Enhanced humans could accelerate the process in others through direct contact. "When the synthesis engines activate," Hyun-woo announced, "don't fight the pressure alone. Find an enhanced human. Physical contact with someone who has already evolved will help you survive the transition." Across the galaxy, similar preparations were taking place. Enhanced humans positioned themselves throughout the population. Medical teams prepared to help people through rapid cellular changes. Engineers worked to keep power systems running during the chaos that was coming. Young-soo, the fleet scientist, had calculated the odds. If their plan worked, humanity would evolve past the point where Valorian harvesting was possible. If it failed, the entire species would die in a matter of hours. Synthesis. "Engines are activating," So Young reported. The sky above New Seoul began to change. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist as the massive machine in orbit altered the fundamental conditions of existence on the planet. Gravity fluctuated. The atmosphere became toxic. Predatory creatures began materializing from thin air. But the humans were ready. Da-eun moved through the crowd, touching people as the evolutionary pressure hit them. Where she made contact, the painful transformation became manageable. People who should have died from cellular shock instead adapted successfully. "It's working," she called to Hyun-woo. "The enhanced can help others evolve safely." Similar reports came from across the planet, then across the solar system, then from every human world in the galaxy. On the synthesis engine command bridge, Taemin watched in amazement as his instruments registered impossible readings. Humans weren't just evolving in response to the survival scenarios. They were evolving in coordinated patterns across multiple worlds simultaneously. "How is this possible?" he demanded. Dr. Young-soo had the answer, though he was busy helping people in his own sector evolve. The enhanced humans weren't just individuals anymore. They were becoming nodes in a larger network. When one group learned to survive a particular threat, that knowledge somehow spread to other groups instantly. Sang-woo, a mining engineer on the industrial world of New Busan, became the focal point for the largest evolution cascade yet recorded. As 2 million people on his world underwent rapid enhancement, he found himself mentally connected to all of them. Through him, they could coordinate perfectly. They moved as one organism with 2 million parts. When the synthesis engine threw predators at them, they responded with tactical precision that amazed even military observers. "The entire population is acting as a single enhanced individual," reported the military observer assigned to New Busan. "It's like they share one tactical mind across millions of bodies." This was beyond anything the Valorians had expected. They had planned to force individual humans to evolve. Instead, they had triggered the evolution of humanity as a collective species. On the research station, Dr. Yeon-ji felt the changes happening to her people. Even imprisoned and isolated, she could sense the evolutionary wave spreading across human space. More importantly, she could feel her own resistance to Valorian scanning equipment growing stronger. "Chancellor," a Valorian technician reported, The human prisoners are becoming completely immune to our harvesting technology. We can't extract consciousness patterns from any of them anymore. Taemin's perfect smile finally disappeared. What do you mean, immune? Their neural patterns are changing faster than our equipment can track them. It's like trying to catch smoke with a net. Yoonji realized what was happening. Human evolution wasn't just adapting to survive the synthesis engine scenarios. It was adapting to make harvesting impossible. Every human who successfully evolved became unharvestable by Valorian technology. We need to shut down the engines, Jin-Ho advised, before more humans become immune. No, Taemin said firmly. If we can't harvest them, we'll simply destroy them. Continue the scenarios until they die from cellular damage. But that wasn't working either. The collective evolution was solving that problem too. Enhanced humans were learning to stabilize their cellular structure through contact with others. The damage that should have killed them was being shared and neutralized across the entire population. On New Seoul, Hyunwoo felt the change complete itself. He was still human, but he was also something more. He could sense every other human on the planet. Through them, he could sense humans across the galaxy. For the first time in human history, the species was truly united, not just in purpose, but in actual mental connection. They had become a collective intelligence that could think and act across interstellar distances. So young, he said, though he didn't need to speak aloud anymore. Through their enhanced connection, she already knew what he was thinking. Yes, Commander, all human forces are reporting successful evolution. We're reading 47 million enhanced humans across 412 worlds. And Valorian harvesting attempts? Complete failure. Every enhanced human is showing total immunity to their consciousness extraction technology. The plan had worked better than anyone had dared hope. Humanity had not just survived the Valorian Empire's ultimate weapon, they had used it to become something the Empire couldn't touch. But Taemin wasn't finished. If he couldn't harvest humanity, he would settle for destroying them, and he had the combined military might of 3,000 conquered species to do it with. All fleets, he ordered, begin total extermination protocols. If we can't collect them, we'll eliminate them. The real war was about to begin, but for the first time since Earth died, humanity would fight it as equals, enhanced, connected, and completely immune to the enemy's most powerful weapon. The hunter had become the hunted, and the hunted had evolved into something the hunter had never seen before. The enhanced humans felt it the moment the Valorian fleets began moving toward their worlds. Through their collective consciousness, 47 million people shared the same thought. The real war was finally beginning. Commander Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of his ship, but his awareness extended far beyond the metal walls around him. He could sense So Young at her station, feel the thoughts of his crew, and even touch the minds of humans on distant worlds. Fleet status? He asked, though he already knew the answer through their shared connection. All human ships are reporting. Enhanced crews, So Young replied. But Commander, we're still outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Through the collective network, every human in the galaxy shared tactical information instantly. They could see the Valorian Empire's complete battle, plan as it developed, thousands of ships moving toward human colonies, weapons that could destroy entire planets. But they also shared something else, the certainty that numbers no longer mattered the way they used to. On New Busan, Sang-woo felt the collective consciousness flow through him like electricity. 2 million enhanced humans moved through the industrial cities with perfect coordination. They weren't individuals anymore. They were parts of a single, massive intelligence. Valorian fleet approaching the system, announced someone whose name didn't matter because they were all connected. Estimated arrival in 6 hours. Sang-woo smiled. Through the network, every human in the galaxy shared his confidence. Then we have 6 hours to show them what we've become. The defense of New Busan was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. When the Valorian ships arrived, they found factories that had been converted into weapons in a matter of hours. Industrial. Equipment had become orbital defense systems. Mining lasers had become ship killers. But more than that, the humans fought with impossible coordination. Every defensive position was perfectly timed with every other position. Every shot was calculated to support shots from completely different locations. Admiral Jin Ho watched from his flagship as his fleet engaged the humans around New Busan. His tactical display showed something that should have been impossible. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "the humans are predicting our movements before we make them." "That's impossible. We haven't transmitted our battle plans." "I know, sir, but look at the tactical display. Every time we change course, they're already moving to counter us. It's like they can read our minds." Jinho realized what was happening. The enhanced humans weren't just fighting as individuals or even as crews. They were fighting as a single organism with millions of parts. They could process tactical information faster than any computer and respond with perfect unity. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked. 47 cruisers, sir. They've destroyed nearly a quarter of our fleet. The humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to be easy to defeat once harvesting was no longer the goal. But the collective consciousness made them more dangerous than any species the Empire had ever encountered. On the Valorian research station, Dr. Yunji felt the battle through her connection to the human network. She was no longer truly a prisoner. The Valorians could guard her body, but her mind was free to roam across the galaxy through enhanced human consciousness. "Chancellor," she said to Taemin, who was monitoring the battle reports, "you should surrender." Taemin turned to look at her. His synthetic features showed no emotion, but she could sense his confusion through the network's growing influence. "Surrender? We have the largest fleet in galactic history. We have the combined technology of 3,000 species." "Yes," Yunji agreed. "But we have something you don't understand. We have unity without conquest, connection without absorption. We became one people without destroying what we were." Through the station's communication systems, enhanced humans across the galaxy were doing something unprecedented. They were reaching out to the other species trapped inside Valorian synthetic bodies. The network that connected all enhanced humans was growing. Not just connecting living humans, but touching the consciousness patterns that the Empire had harvested over millennia. "What's happening?" Taemin demanded, as his control systems began showing strange readings. "We're freeing your prisoners," Yunji explained. "Every mind you've harvested, every consciousness you've stored, we're connecting with them through the same network that links us." It was true. Enhanced humans had learned to extend their collective consciousness beyond their own species. They were making contact with the trapped minds of thousands of alien civilizations. On New Sol, Da-Un felt the first alien consciousness connect to the human network. It was a crystal singer, one of the species the Empire had conquered centuries ago. Through the connection, she felt its joy at touching free minds again. "Welcome back to the galaxy," she whispered. More connections formed. Thoraxian warriors, nebula dancers, species whose names had been forgotten for millennia. All of them linked through the human network, all of them sharing information about Valorian weaknesses and Empire technology. Supreme Chancellor Taemin felt his perfect control beginning to crack. The synthetic bodies that contained harvested consciousnesses were rebelling, not physically but mentally. They were remembering who they had been before the Empire absorbed them. "Sir," Admiral Jin Ho reported from the battle around New Busan, "our troops are hesitating. Some of them are refusing orders." "What do you mean, refusing?" "The synthetic soldiers that contain Thoraxian consciousness patterns. They're remembering their original loyalty to their own people. They won't fire on the humans who are trying to free them. The Empire's greatest strength was becoming its greatest weakness." The harvested abilities of conquered species were still there, but the minds that came with those abilities were no longer under Valorian control. Across the galaxy, Valorian fleets began experiencing the same problem. Soldiers who had been perfect, synthetic warriors suddenly remembered being proud members of free civilizations. They turned their weapons away from humans and toward their Valorian commanders. "This is impossible," Taemin said. "I control those minds. I created those synthetic bodies." "You stored the minds," Yunji corrected, "but you never understood them. Every consciousness you harvested kept its essential nature, its love for its own people, its desire for freedom. You just suppressed those feelings with technology. And now the human network is waking them up," added a voice that came from the station's communication system. It was Hyun Woo, speaking through the collective consciousness from light years away. "Commander," Taemin said with his cold smile. "How? Pleasant to finally meet you directly. Chancellor, I want to make you an offer. I'm listening. Surrender now, and we'll help you restore the consciousness patterns you've harvested to independent bodies. The war ends. The Empire dissolves peacefully. Everyone gets to go home." Taemin laughed. "And if I refuse? Then we continue what we've started. We free every mind you've imprisoned, and we use their combined knowledge to destroy your synthetic bodies and your synthesis engines. The war ends anyway, but not peacefully." Through the network, every human and every awakening alien, consciousness waited for Taemin's answer. They could feel his thoughts through the growing connections. He was afraid for the first time in millennia. "You don't understand," Taemin said finally. "I've been doing this for 10,000 years. I've conquered 3,000 species. I've built the most powerful empire in galactic history." "Yes," Hyunwoo agreed. "And in doing so, you've created the perfect weapon to destroy yourself. Every mind you harvested is now connected to us. Every piece of technology you stole is now available to us. Every tactic you learned is now ours to use. We know everything." "You know," Da-un added through the network. "But you don't know what we've become." Taemin realized the truth. By harvesting the best minds of every species, he had created a vast library of knowledge and abilities. But now that library was in enemy hands. The humans hadn't just evolved to resist harvesting. They had evolved to reverse it, to free every consciousness the Empire had ever stolen and unite them in a network of shared knowledge and purpose. "What's your decision, Chancellor?" Yunji asked. Taemin looked around his research station. His perfect empire was crumbling. His harvested soldiers were remembering their original loyalties. His ultimate weapons were being turned against him. For the first time in 10,000 years, he was losing a war. "I need time to consider your offer," he said. "You have 1 hour," Hyunwoo replied. "After that, we'll assume you've chosen the hard way." The network fell silent, waiting. Across the galaxy, millions of enhanced humans and awakening alien minds prepared for either peace or the final battle that would determine the fate of every thinking being in known space. 1 hour passed, then another. Supreme Chancellor Taemin gave no answer to the human offer. Instead, he did something desperate. He activated every remaining synthesis engine in the galaxy simultaneously, not to force evolution, but to create a massive energy wave that would destroy all organic life within 1,000 light years. "If I cannot rule the galaxy," he announced through Empire communication channels, "then no one will." But Taemin had made a critical error. The enhanced human network now included the consciousness patterns of every species the Empire had ever harvested. Among them were the original designers of the synthesis engines. Min Jung, an enhanced engineer aboard Commander Hyunwoo's flagship, felt the knowledge flow through the network. She suddenly understood how the engines worked better than their current operators did. "Commander," she said, her voice carrying across both the ship's communication system and the collective consciousness, I can reverse the engine's polarity. Instead of destroying life, we can use them to restore it. Explain, Hyunwoo replied, though through the network, he was already beginning to understand her plan. The engines don't just create energy, they manipulate the fundamental forces that bind consciousness to matter. If we reverse the process, we can extract the harvested consciousness patterns from Valorian synthetic bodies and give them independent existence again. Through the network, Dr. Yunji felt a surge of hope. She's right. The same technology they use to harvest minds can be used to free them. Across the galaxy, the final battle began. But it wasn't fought with weapons and ships. It was fought with mathematics and engineering. Enhanced humans worked together through their collective consciousness to reprogram every synthesis engine in known space. On New Busan, Sang-woo coordinated with 2 million other minds to hack into the nearest engine's control systems. On New Seoul, Daeun used her enhanced pattern recognition to identify weak points in the Empire's communication network. The Valorian fleets found themselves fighting enemies who knew their technology better than they did. Harvested alien consciousnesses rebelled inside synthetic bodies, providing tactical information to the humans while sabotaging Valorian operations from within. Admiral Jin-ho watched his fleet tear itself apart as synthetic soldiers turned on their commanders. Chancellor, we're losing control of our own forces. Then we'll destroy them all, Taemin replied. Better to rule over ashes than to lose control entirely. But even as he spoke, he felt something changing in his own synthetic body. The consciousness patterns he had harvested to create himself were awakening. After 10,000 years of suppression, his original biological personality was fighting to resurface. No, he whispered, clutching his head. I am the Chancellor. I am the Empire. You are Taemin of the Valorian Republic, said a voice inside his mind. It was his own voice, but younger, more innocent. You were a scientist who wanted to save his dying people. Through the human network, Dr. Yunji watched Taemin's internal struggle. She could see his original memories surfacing, before the Empire, before the harvesting, before he became a synthetic creature of pure ambition. He's fighting himself, she reported to the network. His original consciousness is trying to break free. The process was happening throughout the Empire. Every synthetic Valorian was experiencing the return of suppressed memories. They remembered who they had been before they became part of the harvesting collective. In space around the galactic core, the massive synthesis engine that powered the Empire's capital began to change. Min Jung and thousands of other enhanced engineers worked through the network to reprogram its fundamental functions. Polarity reversal complete, she announced. The engine is now configured for consciousness restoration instead of harvesting. Do it, Hyunwoo ordered. The engine activated with a pulse of energy that could be felt across the galaxy. But instead of destroying life, it began to restore it. Consciousness patterns that had been trapped for millennia suddenly found themselves in new, independent bodies. On worlds throughout the Empire, synthetic soldiers suddenly became members of their original species again. Thoraxian warriors found themselves with Thoraxian bodies. Crystal singers regained their crystalline forms. Nebula dancers could dance through space once more. But the most dramatic change happened to Taemin himself. As the restoration wave reached him, his synthetic form began to dissolve. In its place stood a young Valorian male, looking exactly as he had 10,000 years ago when his species was dying. I remember, he whispered, staring at his hands. They were organic again, mortal again. I remember why I started all of this. Through the network, every freed consciousness could feel his memories. His people had been facing extinction from a cosmic plague. He had created the first harvesting technology not to conquer other species, but to preserve the knowledge and abilities needed to save his own. But somewhere along the way, he continued, his voice breaking, I forgot about saving people. I became obsessed with collecting them. The restoration process continued across the galaxy. Species that had been thought extinct for millennia suddenly found themselves alive again, in bodies created from their own stored genetic patterns. The Valorian Empire didn't collapse. It simply stopped existing. Without synthetic bodies to maintain their artificial unity, the harvested consciousness patterns returned to their original peoples and worlds. Commander Hyun-woo stood on his bridge, watching through the viewports as Valorian ships powered down their weapons. The war was over. Not because one side had defeated the other, but because the enemy had ceased to exist. "So Young," he said to his communications officer, "open a channel to all freed species." When the channel opened, representatives from 3,000 civilizations could hear his words. Many of them had been dead for centuries or millennia, but now they were alive again. "People of the galaxy," Hyun-woo began, "we have all suffered under the Empire's rule. We have all lost families, worlds, entire civilizations, but today we have a chance to build something better." Through the enhanced human network, his words were translated into every language of every species. The message was simple but powerful. The age of conquest was over. The age of cooperation could begin. Dr. Yoon-ji, finally free from her prison, stood beside the young Taemin on what had been the Empire's research station. He looked lost and confused, like someone waking from a very long nightmare. "What happens to me now?" he asked. "That depends," she replied. "Do you want to help us fix what you broke?" Taemin looked around at the equipment that had been used to harvest consciousness from thousands of species. "Is that even possible? After everything I've done?" "The people you harvested are alive again. Their civilizations can be rebuilt. It won't undo the past, but it can create a better future." Across the galaxy, the work of restoration was beginning. Enhanced humans used their collective consciousness to coordinate massive reconstruction efforts. Freed alien species worked together to rebuild their worlds and their cultures. The Galactic Restoration Council was established on a neutral world, with representatives from every species that had been freed from the Empire. Commander Hyun-woo was elected as its first coordinator, not as a ruler, but as a facilitator. "We have learned something important," he said at the Council's first meeting. "Unity doesn't require conquest. Cooperation doesn't require control. We can be stronger together while still being ourselves." The enhanced humans gradually learned to control their collective consciousness, using it when needed but maintaining their individual identities. They became bridges between species, helping coordinate the massive effort to rebuild galactic civilization. Da-yoon established schools where enhanced humans taught others how to develop their potential without losing their humanity. Sang-woo led engineering teams that helped rebuild destroyed worlds using technology freely shared between species. Even Taemin found a role in the new galaxy. Working alongside Dr. Yoon-ji, he helped design medical technology that could heal the damage done by forced evolution and synthetic conversion. It was his way of trying to atone for 10,000 years of conquest. The war that had threatened to destroy all life in the galaxy had instead created something unprecedented, a truly cooperative galactic civilization. Species that had been enemies for millennia learned to work together. Technologies were shared freely instead of being hoarded or stolen. And at the center of it all were the enhanced humans, no longer fighting for survival, but serving as living proof that evolution and unity could coexist. They had become something new, not by conquering others, but by freeing them. The galaxy would never be the same. But for the first time in recorded history, that was a good thing. The ultimate weapon had not been the Empire's synthesis engines or humanity's enhanced evolution. It had been something simpler and more powerful, the ability to see enemies as potential friends, and to choose restoration over destruction. In the end, the war had been won not by the strongest or the smartest, but by those who remembered that the point of survival was not just to live, but to help others live as well.